Hi guys and girls, welcome back to Watch the Time. Thanks for tuning back in, thanks for coming back to see me. I'm really pleased you've done so, and I'm even more pleased about to bring you another Baltany. Baltany are a brand that I think of so highly, to be honest. They are an AliExpress brand, but a bit like San Martin, I don't really see them so much just as an AliExpress brand. I think they're a really good micro brand in their own right. They do quite different stuff really, Baltany and San Martin. Baltany put out like more vintage style watches you can't buy, and I think that's actually a really good way to go in terms of recreating watches that you can't buy. That's a real good homage in my opinion. This is an Omega Constellation Pie-Pan sort of homage. It's got a Highbeat movement, nice polishing. I don't think there's a brand out there at the price point that does much better finishing really, especially the polish finishing over at Baltany. They do some really good stuff, and yeah, it's really nice, to be honest, really nice. Yeah, 9039 movement inside, nice leather strap. Yeah, what can I say? Baltany, like, is one of my favorite brands, to be honest. Not just AliExpress. They're doing some excellent bits and pieces. I'm not sure if you'd have seen this by now. Hopefully you have, but even if you haven't, hopefully I help you to make an informed decision. So hopefully by the time you get to the end of the video, you know if it's for you. If it is, please use the link in the description. There's a couple of affiliate links. They've also got an Amazon store now. They're not playing games. But yeah, I'm going to stop going on. Get yourself a nice beverage, a nice brew, because it's about that time to get the camera turned around and get on with it. Hi guys, so this is the watch. Usual type of packaging, out of cardboard box, in a sort of leatherette watch roll. Inside there you get a warranty card, instruction manual, cleaning cloth. I'm not going to go into all that stuff, because that's not really the reason you buy the watch. It's nice that Baltany are good enough to include it. It's got embossment on the watch roll, and yeah, really nice, something you can continue to use. And this is the watch, really stunning piece. So this is the watch, guys. This is the Baltany S4090. There's another color you can choose from. I wanted to get this one in, but yeah, there's a couple of choices. It's a homage of a vintage Omega. They call it I think it's the Pie-Pan. Very sharp looking watch. These are I think homages like this are people's preferred sort of homages really, of watches that you can't really buy, so it kind of is a good reason to recreate it. And I think that's really where Baltany shine, not only with their finishing, the purpose movements they use and stuff, but the fact that they're homaging watches really that you can't attain. Do you understand what I mean? So I think that's a good thing. This is the Baltany S4090. Inside the watch, it's run a Miyota Highbeat movement. It's a 9039 you'll see there. I'll also bring up some further information so you can actually get an idea of the specs of the watch and stuff. It's 28,800 beats per hour, and that gives you a really quite a nice sweep of the second hand. You'll see that as we go through the video. But I've said many times, the Miyota 9000 series of movements is amongst my favorite. And once again, Baltany have included this one with no date, because it hasn't got a date on the dial. So yeah, fantastic stuff from Baltany. So that's the movement. The construction of the watch, aside from the crystal on the front and back and the leather strap, is all high polished 316L stainless steel. So this is another place where they really shine in terms of the way they finish their watches with the polishing and stuff. So the bezel, case, crown, outer part, the exhibition case back, and pin buckle clasp, all 316L stainless steel, and all high polished to a good standard, as are the indices. But we'll talk about that in a moment. The case thickness of the watch is 10.1 millimeters, which is very impressive when you consider it's got quite a bit of domage on the crystal. The case diameter, I measured from the 8 to the 2, it was coming at 38.4 millimeters. When you go from the 9 to the 3, including the crown, it was kind of 40.8 millimeters. The lug width on this is 20, and the lug to lug tip, the tip of the watch, is 46.6 millimeters. So I think they are some fantastic proportions for the watch. Yeah, very nice. The case back is screwed down. You'll see the rotor just going a little bit crazy there. That's kind of also what they're synonymous for. But it's screwed down, just with some information that we're going to run through in a few moments time. Sapphire crystal on the back, which is a lovely touch. Yeah, really nice. Crown situated at the 3 o'clock, signed with the B for Baltany. A little bit smaller than I would like. A mil or two would have been good, because it does make it a little bit tricky to grab hold of. And as I said a moment ago, it's got a high polished bezel And yeah, like I said, finished to a really good standard, because that's kind of what Baltany do. That's just how they roll. 20mm lug width, this leather strap, super comfortable. It's not quick release, which I was a bit surprised about. But yeah, I think this strap would last a long time. Feels quite substantial. I'm starting to, I broke it in quite a bit now, you can see. But yeah, super comfortable leather strap. Signage on the pin buckle clasp, as I've said, with Baltany. And that brings us to what type of crystals covering the dial. You can see it's got a bit of domage going on, and it is indeed a sapphire crystal with good clarity, really. Another thing they do well. So I mean, amongst many things that Baltany do are smashing at the minute, is their crystal. That crystal is very clear, and it's sapphire, so that gives us a sapphire sandwich. We love a bit of it. The water resistance is cited as being 50 meters, so that'll give you 5 atmospheres of water resistance, and the weight will appear in the top right. So it's 61.5 grams, and I think that's about bang on when you consider the sort of proportions of the watch as on a leather strap. Probably about right. But let's have a look at the dial in a bit more detail. So the dial itself, like I said, there's not a lot of other points for originality, given it is a homage of a vintage Omega, but I think it's been done really well. It almost feels like you've got a couple of sections to the dial. So you've got the outer, which is where you got those very pronounced high polish indices, slightly different at the 12, 3, 6 and 9, and it's the same everywhere else. But I like the way they've been done. They almost look like arrowheads, very pronounced, high polish, nice facets on them as well. Inside that, you got the minute track, which is the reason the hands can be the size they are. Obviously, the hands look quite small, but they reach out exactly to the minute track just inside there. So I like the way that's been done. They're not going to garner a lot of points for originality, but in terms of execution, I think the details and the small details and the finishing and stuff is where Baltany shine, and that does continue to be the case with this watch. Nice hands, high polished hands, good proportions in relation to where it reaches out to on that center of the sector dial, and yeah, looking really nice. Baltany in just upper K's is printed on just at the sort of 12 o'clock position, and you got automatic down at the 6 with a star. That star also has been done really nice. Looks like it's been applied, and it plays with the light really nicely, as does the hands. And like I said, all high polished. High polish is the order of the day with this watch. Yeah, but you're looking very nice. I like the way it looks. There's the minuscule amount of lume on the hands. I wasn't really able to record it just because it wouldn't focus. But listen, that's not a big deal. The purpose of this type of watch isn't for the lume, because it's not that type of watch. They didn't need to put any on, to be honest. I think it's a great looking offering. Normally, what you would do is you'd obviously, when the crown's in the position where it's closest to the case, you can turn it to screw it, to add some power into it, turn it away from you. When you take the crown out, you'll notice it will hack, and that's it. Give it a 9039 movement. There's no date, there's no day date, there's nothing like that. Very straightforward. Not an awful lot to go through in terms of that, but yeah, it looks like a cracking looking watch, doesn't it? Really nice sort of silvery white dial, the high polished indices, high polished hands, really good crystal clarity. Yeah. Let me just pop it on the wrist quickly, guys, give you an idea of what it looks like on my wrist. One moment. Okay, so my wrist is about a 7¼ inch wrist. You'll see it fits probably in the middle, so it's got several holes to go tighter, several to go looser. And like I say, this watch is a stunner. The clarity on it for how domed the crystal is very good. And like I say, just the Baltany ever miss? Did they ever miss? Did they not always just smash it? Because I don't think I've ever had a bad Baltany. Testament to them, to be honest. But as ever, what do you all make of it? Okay, so guys and girls, that's now going to take me on swiftly to what I think is pants and pucker about the watch. If you've ever watched before, you know I always start with pants. I like to kind of high with pucker. So what I think is pants about this watch, I'll be honest, this was a real struggle with this watch. Ordinarily on watches that weren't dressy pieces like this, I may well have mentioned the fact that it's got the lume just isn't there. But yeah, the only thing I'm going to say is the crown size. It does make it a bit tricky. You've really got to try to grab hold of that. It'd have been nice if it was a couple of mil bigger. It wouldn't have really hurt the aesthetic of the watch either. But that's literally all I have for pants is the crown size. What I think is pucker. Strap yourself in. It's an awful lot more, which is in no small part why I featured it on my sale video. I'll go with a sapphire sandwich. We do like a sapphire sarnie on our watches, don't we? Really nice. The dial, like I said, that silvery white dial, Done very, very well. Yeah, very, very nice. I will say the crystal clarity. I wasn't going to say crystal clarity, but the more time I've spent with this watch, I feel like I need to add crystal clarity. The indices, those indices, and the star down at the 6 as well, because it does play with the light nicely. See the way it shimmers and just plays with the light in different, yeah, looks very, very nice. The movement, the Highbeat movement in the Miyota 9039 movement is to be applauded, especially at a price. At the time of recording, this is the price you could have picked it up for. The proportions, I think the proportions of this watch are fantastic. Just above 10 mil thick with that sort of domage on the crystal, everything else fantastic. The finishing, like I said, there's not different contrast in terms of brushing to polish as it is all high polished, but their polishing over there is unbelievable, amongst the best that you get in for the price point. And the general look of the watch, the general look is fantastic. Like I said, it's not an original design, but they're homaging watches that I think are the type of watches most people should be homaging, that or just very, very expensive watches, not the mid-range stuff. There's no real call for it. So they're the things I'm going to say is the Sapphire sandwich, dial, crystal clarity, indices, movement, proportions, finishing, and the general look of the watch. And that'll take me on to, would I recommend this watch? And I mean, it's one that I've really wanted to get my hands on. So they were good enough to send it over. And I think, again, like I said a moment ago, they just don't miss over at Baltany. The way they execute stuff, their attention to detail, the finishing, the crystal clarity, the movements they use, absolutely bang on. And it goes without saying, I would 100% implore you to pick one of these up. But guys and girls, as ever, please let me know what you think about this watch. And maybe any other watches you may want to see on the channel. And as always say, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and always watch the time. Take care, guys. All the very best.